So in order to stop the user from inserting more than 10 records or rows per employee ID, the way to prevent that is via a trigger. And again, a trigger just runs when we want it to. So let's do create trigger. What do we want to call the trigger? It's probably employee overloading is what we'll refer to it as. On the table is employee territories. Let's just copy and paste this. And after, I'm going to talk about what after is in another video, but basically when they do an insert or an update, notice I'm not going to put delete here, because if I go and delete a row here, that's actually taking work away from my employees, which is good. That's okay. We don't need to run code to make sure that you're not overloading the employees if you're deleting work. So as an optimization trick, I'm actually not going to say delete here. There's no point in running the code when I know it'll pass. So anyway, let's do our begin and our end. Now, first thing we need to do is find out the ID of the employee that they inserted. Okay, so I showed you in a previous video the inserted table. So let's do declare at employee ID, and I'm going to say select at employee ID gets employee ID from inserted. Okay, so now I have the ID of the employee that they either inserted or they updated. Again, I could come in here and change. I could change all these 2s. I could change them to a 7 if I wanted to, or just a few of them. And so updating this would actually add work to number 7 as well. So, but again, the update comes in the inserted table, and also when I insert, it comes in the inserted table. We saw that in a previous video. So now I have the employee ID of the person they're trying to add work to, and let's see, select splat from employee inserted. Now I need to count the number of rows or the number of records in here for which this employee is assigned. So let's do declare at the count int select at the count gets count splat from employee territories, where employee ID is equal to the one that they just inserted or updated, either one. And now I'm scrolling off the screen, and that's bad. So let's format this a little bit just so my query is a little more readable. Okay, so grab the count of the number of employees that this employee is responsible for. I'm going to say, hey, if at the count is greater than or equal to, and ideally this number wouldn't be hard-coded, but we'll just hard-code it here. If the count's greater than or equal to 10, 10's okay. If it's greater than 10, then begin and first thing we want to do is raise error. Alright, and this is the way we send messages to whoever's using our database. This is how we report, hey, you did a problem. And notice the spelling here is kind of unique. It's raise and then error. They both share this one E. Raise error. First argument is a string, so you are overloading your employee. And then the severity, this is just a number. It's 1 to 25. And I think on a scale from 1 to 25, we'll put a 15. It really doesn't matter, but the higher the number, the worse the problem. And some really high numbers, I think it's like 18 or 19. Above that, you have to be like the administrator or whatever to raise such a severe error. And then there's a state argument, which is kind of useless unless you can look it up. I'm not going to go over it. So I'll raise an error, say, hey, you are causing a problem. But then I also need to undo what they did. Okay, they're overloading this employee. I need to say, hey, no, you can't do that. You can't touch this. Yeah, there's a wrapper from my early days. Anyway, so I'm going to say roll back, which basically undoes whatever it is they did. Okay, so I'm going to go here and let's create this trigger. So I'm going to highlight this and hit F5. Command completed successfully. So now this trigger is installed. And I'm going to go over here and let's just do a new query window. Select splat from employee territories, and let's just give employee number 1 a little more work, because looks like I believe this was Nancy. Nancy's just not cutting it. So insert into employee territories, values, Nancy, and let's give her 01833. 833. It doesn't look like she has 01833 yet. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but unfortunately, the territory ID is a character string. Very poor choice of a data type when it's really a number, but whoever created the Northwind database decided to make it a character string. So, okay, here we go. Insert, boom. One row affected. No problems, no issues. Nancy does not have more than 10. She's cool. Alright, so now let's go and select splat from employee territories. I'll just reuse this query where we know number 7 is really working it. He's on the verge of being overloaded. So let me run that. It looks like he doesn't have 01833 if I look here. Not seeing it. So I'm going to say, hey, let's assign number 7 01833. Well, that's going to, if we go back to our trigger, when our trigger executes, that's going to get the count of this employee that we just inserted. That's going to be 7, so employee ID will be 7. We're going to count how many areas he has, and that's going to come up greater than 10, because right now it's at 10. One more row will take it to 11. So we're going to say, hey, you're overloading the employee, and then we're going to roll back. All right. So just to prove what's going on here, let me select splat from employee territories, order by employee ID. Notice when we inserted Nancy, Nancy did get her 01833. But let's watch what happens here when we try to give 7 one too many records. Boom! Look at this, huh? You're overloading your employee. And then transaction, I haven't talked about transactions yet, but basically the transaction entered into the trigger, the batch has been aborted. Alright, so we basically undid what happened. So let's order by employee ID again, run. Let's look at number 7. If you see employee ID number 7, you won't see 01833 anywhere in here because we stopped it from happening. Anyway, so again, we're kind of writing our own constraint here. We're writing constraints against our data. We don't want our data to just be outrageous and gibbly-gop or whatever. That's why we like constraints. We like to make sure it follows whatever form our business follows. And so this is a perfect example of why we'd use a trigger is to do something that a check constraint or a unique constraint can't do. Or data type constraint, whatever. Anyway, triggers.